Hi, my name is Steph and welcome to this video. This video will briefly introduce and describe the sovereign leadership model. Now, I'm super excited to share this model with you as it forms an integral part of the foundation of all of my teachings. This model was born of the need to begin to look to self with greater efficacy and conviction for wisdom, for our wisdom. To begin to search deeper for answers to questions that often elude us, I commenced my own personal journey into moving towards understanding self deeper. I wanted to be a beacon of light for others. I wanted to inspire others, but found that I was so disconnected from self that I truly did not know who I was. Without a deep dive into self, into all that I was, and into the chasms of my psyche, an attempt to authentically inspire others would be fruitless. I asked myself, how can I know myself with greater clarity? How can I govern self from a place of empowered sovereignty? What attributes do I require in order to gain deep knowledge of self, and then from this point be of greater service to others, to the human family and to Earth? Now, after moving through a series of what at the time I considered cataclysmic and deeply transformative events, I was able to observe the forest through the trees. You see, I realised strongly that in order to be effective for others in life, I must learn first how to be effective in myself. I experienced an afflatus, an almost spiritual revelation, and right here in these moments of deep and critical reflection, began my exciting, winding journey towards developing the model I now call sovereign leadership. Now, the sovereign leadership model has 14 tenets that contribute to the definition of being a sovereign leader. And like any venture or state worth pursuing in life, it must be pursued and lived out with focus, tenacity and willingness. And just note that these 14 tenets will probably evolve over time. It could be 16 coming up soon, who knows. Now, I call this posture the 3P model. This model that represents patience, practice and persistence underpins any movement in life. A simplistic model by nature, I developed this as a way to move through life with greater confidence. You see, if we practice diligently, apply patience and are persistent in our actions, we can accomplish almost anything. And these 3 states grant us deeper insight into any area or pursuit in life, and this is powerful. Now back to the 14 tenets. The 14 tenets, when lived openly, embraced fully and integrated with careful attention and deliberate intention over time, contribute to living in a powerfully empowered state of being. When we envelop ourselves in this truth, we become that truth. We must therefore pay close attention to these states, for it is these states that contribute to a fuller and whole version of self. See, the purpose of the sovereign leadership model is to create empowered leaders of self. And one of my greatest missions in life is to be able to inspire others to live authentically and assume control of their own lives with prowess and clarity by actively living their truth. In other words, marrying their inner world with their extrinsic actions seamlessly and with conviction. Now, I consider this process and set of continuous actions a meaningful definition of authenticity. I want to briefly cover the 14 tenets. Go through these tenets in great detail, or going through these tenets in great detail rather, would take substantial time and is something I cover extensively in my programs, in my lectures, speaking engagements and webinars. This video is really an introduction into the sovereign leadership framework. And if you have further interest, of course, you're more than welcome to contact me for further details to understand how this model may be of value to and serve you or your organisation in greater depth. Okay, so there are 14 tenets in this model, and each tenet plays a pivotal role in creating an authentic, sovereign leader. They are as follows, in no particular order: being of service, immersive creativity, empathetic wisdom, infinite vision and intuition, self-realization, cosmic diplomacy, self-compassion, artful stillness and silence, mastery of self, self-actualization, connected minds, inclusive innovation, resilient warrior, and authentic self. Now, this platform and video is not the space to go through extensively each tenet. Therefore, I will choose a few to elaborate upon to at least begin to provide you with an idea of how these tenets work in a beautiful cohesion and symbiosis to be a truly impactful influence on the effective execution of living in a posture of sovereign leadership. Now, of course, I offer a detailed background into the intricacies of this model and how it can be applied to organisations and individuals alike, and further break down the sovereign leadership model through my weekly wisdom webinar series, public speaking, stage courses, and my online programs. And I wanted to re-clarify that for you. Okay, so the first tenet of sovereign leadership we will speak to today is being of service. I speak to this term often, and we cannot speak to our purpose in life, which of course entails self-imposed leadership in order to be effective, without including at least some element of being of service. It is natural for us to wish to assist others. This also ties in with a notion I call selfish selflessness. In order for selfish selflessness to be effective, we must understand the 6 basic premises that support its distinct character. These premises are as follows. That firstly, we are relational beings, socialized beings by nature and nurture. Secondly, we genuinely care for others. There is an inherent need to give to others. We require others to enhance our lives as we enhance theirs. Number 3, consciousness provides us with a sense of individualized self whilst connecting us and assisting us in understanding who we are. 4, enhancing the effectiveness of our environment enhances our survivability and engages directly in mechanisms of self-preservation. Collaboration is evolutionarily built within us. 5, from an evolutionary perspective, our brains are hardwired to feel rewarded more for magnanimity and selflessness than for meanness and selfishness. Giving support is part of a feedback loop that makes giving social support rewarding to the giver. See, this is a generous biological design that is probably key to our survival and well-being as a species overall. And lastly, intention is key. In order for selfish selflessness to be an effective backstop for being of service, we must move with specific intent. In other words, conscious action is taken that considers expanding self across many layers of existence, whilst also wanting to be of service to others. Because the realised truth, as stated above, is that we need others to grow, expand, and evolve. Taking this into consideration, we can understand the power of being of service and how it may positively influence the effectiveness of leading self through life with greater sovereignty, prowess, and deepened clarity of self and environment. Let us next examine the tenet of self-compassion. Now, science and neurological studies demonstrate that one of the most powerful contributing factors to effective leadership is an individual's capacity to be compassionate, to live in compassion. With this said though, we must learn to begin with ourselves. We must practice internally prior to practicing externally. When we lead by example and are kind to self in such a way that we raise our standards for self in an endearing manner, we are being the best versions of ourselves and for others. Nurturing and giving towards self is energizing. It allows us to experience life from a vantage point of openness. When we are unkind to ourselves, when our inner voice and tonality is harsh, we are unable to be open with ourselves. Any posture of being closed forces us to then assume a state of contraction, fear, discontent, disconnection, feeling of disjointedness and retracted states often then accompany our movement, our entire movement through life. This posture does not lend itself to being an effective leader, but rather hinders our progress in this area. When we are patient enough to be kind to ourselves, we are able to embrace the opportunity to grow and learn through our experiences. This open nature allows us to expedite the rate at which our consciousness expands into deeper levels of awareness of self. The greater we connect to ourselves, the more empowered we become to take meaningful action aligned with our truth. This surely is a mark of an effective sovereign leader. Let's move to another tenet of sovereign leadership. In fact, one of my favourites. Resilient warrior. The resilient warrior believes in themselves. They believe in their ability. They trust their ability and their capacity to execute under hardship and difficulty. They understand what it means to be vulnerable and in fact express an empowered posture from this very state of vulnerability. The resilient warrior has embraced their shadow self, the fullness and wholeness of who they are, who they have been and the darkness they have experienced throughout life. The shadow self is not rejected, but rather a movement towards understanding, embracing and being revered in this space takes place. It is not ignored in the face of societal judgment, but rather acknowledged as a valuable experience and deep learning that leads to wholeness, not fragmentation. In fact, it is this very darkness that has shaped their warrior-like qualities. The resilient warrior moves with deliberate intent and understands that life is about balance and completeness in expression. The resilient warrior moves with their fears and understands that fear is fuel for growth and insight into self and one's environmental circumstances. Fear, failure, pain are all signposts along the journey towards completeness. The resilient warrior believes in acknowledging the fullness of self by respecting all perspectives of life, being staunch yet wonderfully open in the face of danger and observing closely the underlying reasons of the why behind life. The resilient warrior moves with challenges, hardships, difficulties and pain points. They do not retract or contract, but rather remain open to the wise learning that accompanies every unique experience. The resilient warrior pursues certain levels of hardship and challenge to assist in developing tolerance to what is a natural part of life that can also be debilitating and paralysing if not understood correctly and truthfully. Hence the slow, methodical and calculated exposure to pain is sought in order to develop deeper and broader understanding of life as a whole rather than a fragmented focus. Now, there is much to be said on the resilient warrior, and in fact there is much to be said and much action to be taken on all tenets of the sovereign leadership model. But for the interim, we shall cease to dive deeply into this arena, but rather I prompt you, I urge you to learn as much as you can about the sovereign self and the power that awareness of self carries through life. Whether it be through the sovereign leadership modelling or any other means, I urge you to seek, to query and to immerse yourself in challenge, growth promoting activities and into the chasms of who you are. However, if you are interested in learning more from me and about this model and how it may assist you in navigating the complexities of life, business, relationships, the self and the mysteries of our existence, then please feel free to contact me directly. I'm available for specific training on my models, leadership training and facilitation, and of course private one-on-one work. These teachings are also available through my programs, such as the very, very accessible weekly wisdom webinar series and my many other online programs, which you can find are available via my website www.sifandos.com. I hope that this video has been insightful, and I wish you many, many blessings on your journey into self. And I look forward to being of service. Thank you so much for watching.